Hi everyone, it's Gary here from Echidna Sewing, and today I want to introduce you to the Maggie Magnetic Hoops for the Brother PR Series machines. Now, whether you have a Brother 6 needle machine or you've just bought a 10 needle machine, and whether it goes back to 2006 when they were first introduced, these hoops will work for you. And what we're going to do is run through all the different things you need to know before you start using magnetic hoops. Now, I should point out, if you have the Brother PRS 100, which is the single needle version, these currently do not fit that, but we are working on that. So anyway, let's assume you've got a 6 needle or a 10 needle machine. What are we actually looking at here? Firstly, we'll go through the three different sizes that we have available. So, as you can see, smallest one we have currently is the 130 by 130. And interesting thing, on commercial hoops, generally we measure the actual size of the hoop itself, not the embroidery area. So while this is a 130 by 130 hoop, it actually gives you a 100 by 100 embroidery area. So we'll come back to that in a moment. The next size is the 180 by 180. And again, if you take that the hoop size off and go back to the embroidery area, this is actually equivalent to a 150 by 150. And then we have the bigger one, which is 320 by 290. And this, of course, this one says 320 by 200, but it actually comes back to 290 by 170, and that's the embroidery area, so that's the maximum size, and all that information is on our website anyway. So a little bit of background on magnetic hoops. Magnetic hoops have been around for a long time. These are particularly strong, and there's various variations of this product around throughout the world. The Maggie hoops are made by the company that makes a lot of our hoops, and they're very, very strong. So one of the things I do want to run through first with magnetic hoops is the safety warnings, and there are some, and you need to be aware of these before you make a purchase, and you can read all about this on our website. But every set we send will come with this little safety warning, and just quickly running through a few of those things. Firstly is the personal safety, and the most important one, magnets. They're very, very strong. So if I was to peel this product apart, for instance, the magnet in here has got a pinch hazard. So I'm hoping you can hear what I'm about to do and see this, but I now have the outer ring of the magnetic hoop on my hooping station, which is a really great product to have when you're using magnetic hoops. And if you were to put this magnet to the top of the hoop, close to the bottom of the hoop, without any fabric there, have a listen to what happens, and it goes bang. So the first and most important thing I'm going to say is don't get your fingers caught in there, because it will bite. They do. They're very strong. I actually have got my fingers caught in here before, and you end up with a blood blister. So believe me, they do have a bit of a snap to them. But more importantly, if you have a pacemaker device, then we strongly recommend do not use these products, because one of the things that we tend to do when we're using hoops, and I'm just going to put this back in again, as you can see, very strong, is it's common for us to hold a hoop like this, and I'm told, I don't have a pacemaker myself, so I don't know for sure, but I am told that can cause some issues with pacemakers, so please do not use these hoops if you have a pacemaker device. Just mention the pinch hazard, and of course, being that they're strong magnets, logically, you don't want to get these too close to computer hard drives or sensitive electronic equipment like that. However, they're perfectly fine to use on your Brother PR Series machines, as long as you are just, use some common sense, and hopefully most of us have that. But they've been available for a long, long time, been used in the market for a long, long time, and they're very good, but they do have those couple of little warnings that you need to know about. The next thing on this little leaflet that comes with it is, unlike the machines that you use on your PR, or the hoops that you use on your PR series, and here's a typical example. This is the Brother 300 by 200 frame that goes with pretty much all the 6 and 10 needle machines, or is available for the 10 needle machines. When you put this on a PR series machine, the machine recognizes this as a 300 by 200 embroidery area. In other words, once you put this on, there's no way the machine can actually run over the hoop or crash into the hoop, because it knows that it's a 300 by 200 hoop. When you use a generic hoop or a non-genuine hoop that has been made by a third party, What those companies tend to do, and these are made the same way, is they use the same sensors or the same hoop size that is the same as the 300 by 200. So if I was to take, for instance, this hoop here, which is the 180 by 180 hoop, and put this on my Brother PR series machine, the machine will think this is a 300 by 200 hoop. In other words, it will think it's much bigger than it really is. And if your design was too big to fit in this hoop, you will crash into the hoop. And that applies to any of the generic hoops that are available generally. So you just need to make sure that you do trace your design. And that's very common on pretty much all industrial machines, and in the early days of home machines, we always had to do a trace of the design to make sure that it was going to fit within the embroidery area that we're wanting to stitch in. And in order to help you do that, we've made it kind of simple. Every time we supply these hoops, we do supply a template, a set of templates, and both in a printed form, and you can download you can see there, 3 different hoop sizes, and you can download a printable version from our website, and we also give you the cut files for using on cutting machines, so you can cut your own templates, and they will cut out looking a bit like this. So I'll pop that down here, and hopefully we'll pop it up the right way. This has been cut out of paper. And if I was using this small hoop, and I'll show you when I actually put some fabric in here as well, if we're using the smaller one, that template will actually just sit in there like that. And as long as we keep our embroidery design to within the cutout area of the template, then we know that we're not going to run into any problems at all. And as I said, you can download those cut files and print files, and you can print and create your own as many times as you please. So there are a few of the little warnings. We also do recommend, because these frames are quite heavy, very, very robust, we do recommend particularly using the bigger frames, to use the wide table that comes standard with the 10 needle and is also available for the 6 needle machines. A very important little tip: if you have a PR 10 needle machine which has the camera and the scanning ability, it is imperative that you use the wide table or the new tubular support table if you're using the camera scan function. The reason for that is, even on this little hoop, if you decided that you wanted to use the camera to scan what was in the hoop, it will think it's a 300 by 200 hoop, and it will move at the full range of the 300 by 200 hoop. And because they are relatively heavy, without the wide table or the tubular support table, it will tend to sort of want to sit down, and there is a chance that the hoop could catch on the free arm of the machine or the needle plate and cause you a bit of grief. So please make sure you're using those tables. Again, that warning is on the little information sheet that we provide. So that's enough housekeeping for now, just to give you a bit of a heads up on things you should and shouldn't do. Firstly, let's get back to the product. Very well made, very strong. You'll notice there is, as we look at this, you've got your inner ring. This is currently, the inner ring is sitting in the outer ring. There's a little tab here for releasing it. And again, they're quite strong magnets. So that's what the outer ring would look like. Now, I'm going to just mess around with this one for a minute. We're actually going to hoop a towel on the small one first and just show you how quick and easy it is to do. But you'll also see as we look here, these are riveted. So the magnets are actually housed within the plastic, and they're all riveted together. Now you'll also notice that there's the back side of it, all the warnings and everything are on there, the size and whatever you need to know. Again, good solid steel rivets. Now this is the hooping station has got a metal base, so if you put this strong magnetic part on there, it'll want to sort of stick down to the hooping station. But that's not the way it sits. It sits up this way because we want the magnets to be up closer to the underside of the outer ring. So we would just put our outer ring down. Now you can still use the magnets of the hooping station if you want to make sure that it doesn't slip anywhere, which is always a good idea. And if I was wanting to just quickly hoop up a towel on, just to put a little monogram or something on, using this hoop, in fact I'd stick my stabilizer there, and I'll come back to that in a moment. We'll just quickly take a bit of a towel, because this is one of the most common things we get asked about is, oh, it's so hard to hoop towels. Should I float the towel? Should I just hoop the stabilizer? Well, to be honest, if you have a PR series machine and you have these hoops, this is the easiest way in the world to actually hoop a towel. Now, what I want to show you is just quickly, imagine we wanted to sort of put a little something down the bottom here, or or wherever, but it doesn't matter where I put it at the moment. I'm just going to show you how easy it is to position this hoop. That's it, done. That's all there is to hooping it. It kind of self-locates itself, so we'll just take those magnets away. And what's really cool is it's perfectly hooped. Look at that, it's nice and firm. You know, it's not drum tight, you haven't stretched it, but what you have done is you've really hooped up the fabric quite securely, and it does look pretty cool and very, very easy. Now, removing the hoop, there is the release tab. Now, I'm going to talk about this in a minute. So we just pull that up and that pulls away. Now, a really important tip is when you're sort of putting the hoop back out of the way, don't get your fingers caught. I know I'm harping on that, but believe me, it will bite you if you get your finger caught in there. So let me just explain something, this little tab. And this is really specific to the PR series machines. So when you're hooping your article to go onto the machine, the little release tab here on the outer ring must always be closest to you, not the back of the machine. In other words, when you're hooping, this little tab has to be at the front. If you were to hoop your article that way and then put it into the machine that way, that little tab will get caught on the mechanism of the machine that drives the arms across, and that will cause you some grief. So as long as you hoop it this way and then put your fabric down, put your hoop together and attach it to the machine, you'll be in good shape. So let's look at a couple of other things before we get back to the towels. Articles that are difficult to hoop because of the inconsistency in the fabrics. Now, one of them would be the back of this little pair of cargo shorts. It's very common to put logos and names across the top of the pocket, particularly for business use and people who are sort of, you know, claiming laundry, etc., because you do need to have embroidery. Now, what I would do to hoop this is, we're using the magnetic hoop, is I'd use my small hooping station. I'm going to put that just there like that towards the top. Let's move that guy out the way a little bit. And whatever stabilizer I'm going to use, I had a bit of stabilizer there, so we might just, and we'll just pull that down a bit. So that just holds the stabilizer in place. I don't need to worry about it now. And then if I was to pull this down over here, because the difficult thing here is where you've got the thickness of the pockets, this is what's hard to hoop on a normal traditional hoop. Sometimes the corner of the pocket will be in just the wrong place, but all I need to do is just position that there, get it where I want it, and that's now hooped. Now, of course, I'm a little bit crooked, but it doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying there. But you can see how the thickness of the pocket is no challenge. So if we just take this off now, just do our little magnet check, take our magnets away. There they are. There's one more sitting up there. Where's he gone? There he is, found him. But if I take that away now, you can see that's hooped up beautifully, absolutely superbly. Have a look at the back, look at the stabilizer. It is perfectly taut and tensioned, and it doesn't get any easier than that for doing a complex or a difficult hooping like we're talking about here. Remember, I did it upside down, so what I would need to do is make sure I orientate it correctly on the machine when I'm loading it. So doing things like that's really, really simple. Let's go to a slightly bigger hoop. Throw that over there. Here's another example of something that can be difficult. This is a place setting or a table mat. You could use a standard stabilizer on that, but let's go to a bigger hoop. Again, careful as you take the magnets apart. And we're just going to put that down there like so. Position that. And there's an argument over, would I really need stabilizer on this? Because it's actually quite thick and bulky. But once I pop that hoop into place, that is tensioned up so beautifully. It's not going to move anywhere. It is absolutely firm in place, and that's how easy that could be. A couple of other things. A lot of people like to do photo stitch, for instance. Now, if you do that and you use the Stitch and Shape product that we sell, or the just a heavy felt, it can be difficult to hoop, particularly on a standard hoop because it's quite thick and dense. So again, using our our standard size here, you can see I've already got a bit of a mark there, but it shows you how easy that is to hoop, and that's really firm and taut in the hoop. It does a great job. That's great for photo stitch, by the way, guys, because this product doesn't get out of shape or anything. It just really does support the big stitch count that a photo stitch would need, and it makes for a great feature. So let's take that apart again, move that across there. Oh, here's one. that I only picked this up as I was walking into the film studio just before. This is the little sort of handy bag that some of our studio lights came in, and I opened it up and I thought, wow, that'd be good. Imagine if that was an item you'd purchased and you wanted to add some personalisation to there. This would be quite difficult to hoop on a traditional hoop. In fact, it'd be almost impossible. You'd probably have to stick it down or something. But here's the problem with sticking this type of product down. It's lined, so the inner lining is not attached to the outer fabric. So if you were to stick it down on a sticky back stabilizer, it will tend to move around a bit. If you were to put this into a traditional hoop, it'll be really difficult because it's quite thick. You'd probably also mark the fabric and it wouldn't look fantastic. But using the magnetic hoops, and if we grab this guy here, pop that there again, don't even need any stabilizer with this, just pop that there, grab now, interesting point. I would be putting this into the machine like that. So which way does my release tab need to go? It needs to go so as it's not into the machine. So it should be the other way around. Believe me, you'll only get that wrong once. Ask me how I know, because I have. So once you pop that there, that's now hooped. How cool is that? And that's not going to go anywhere. That is rock solid in there. It's like you play a drum tune on there. Now, I'm a big advocate for not pulling things super drum tight, and you can't on these hoops. It does the job for you and it keeps them really, really good. The other beaut thing about this is it doesn't damage the fabric. It just clamps beautifully. So that's an easy, great little task. And I bet you if you look around, you'll have lots of little bags and things that you could actually hoop up using this style of hoop that you never thought possible. Here's an interesting one. Now this is a knit, and it's a scarf, and it's got so much stretch in it. As you can see, I've embroidered it with Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi on this side, and I did that years ago, and I just picked it up and I thought, I wonder how that would go on these magnetic hoops. So same deal. If I wanted to hoop this up, I would use on this probably, to be honest, a wash away. I'd put my wash away down. I'd put a topping on top as well. And I've got some there that I'm going to use for that towel in a moment. So it's a bit big, but we'll see how it goes. So I would put my wash away down. I'd then put my knit down like this. And then a bit of topping, because we don't want to lose the stitches into the fabric. And then all I got to do is go done. How cool is that? That's hooped. Pretty good. As is the top. Nothing's going to move. I'm going to get a perfect stitch out on that. When I'm finished, all I've got to do is pull it off like that. So that's a great way to handle knits, and you will not stretch the knit. It's going to be perfectly shaped and formed. So that's a great little product. And boy, I make a mess when I do these things. Here's another interesting one. So I don't know where this came from. I have a feeling it was a sample from someone and they left it here. I don't know. Maybe one of our team did it. But it was in our samples box, so I'm going to show you. This is a lovely little design on the back here, but a kind of a difficult area to hoop. And probably, if I'm honest, most people would probably use a sticky back stabilizer for this, because getting all this into a hoop would be difficult. However, on using I'm going to go to the medium size hoop here, if I can find what I did with it. There it is, over there. I'm going to take that, put that down. Now in this case, I'm just going to stop this from moving a bit, because I want to hold it in position. I'm not going to worry about any stabilizer. I really just want you to see what I'm trying to achieve here. By lying the jacket back out, positioning it flat where I need it, with all this silly sort of thicknesses and variations here, this is kind of a difficult thing to hoop. So I'm just going to position that where I need it. Then I'm going to get this bit of the hoop, position that, and that's now hooped. And obviously with my stabilizer in place, that's going to be fine. Now, the secret is, you'll notice this design is quite a lightweight, simple stitch design, and that's what you're looking for in applications like this. But that's going to stitch fine, and there was no trouble hooping that at all. So Take that off. We're done with that guy. So you're getting the drift here, guys. You can see how easy it is to hoop things. And finally, a typical application is your quilt sandwiches. Now, I just quickly picked this up. This is an old sample quilt we had of Lorelei designs that we had floating around, and obviously it's been pieced and put together. But it's a typical quilt. You've got your front panel, you've got your backing, you've got wadding, there'd be some stabilizer in there. It's quite thick. But if I was wanting to, perhaps this is a new block, or I'm creating a new quilt or a quilt block, and I wanted to embroider that panel there, with all that thickness in there, it's hooped it perfectly. I've even got a safety pin cord in there. How good's that? So very, very easy to hoop those thicker fabrics. And also, if you wanted to put this back into a machine and maybe put a quilt label on it, or you needed to add some stippling around a panel, super, super easy to do. So you can work with thicknesses, you can work with anything. But I started talking about this with the towel, and that's as good an example as it gets. Because here's the challenge a lot of people have with towels. Often we want to put a big monogram or a lovely design on a towel, and you might want to use a big hoop like this. Now, the Brother PR series machines are a bigger hoop than the standard home machines, and they're quite accommodating and they do hold well. But the problem with it is getting the inner ring into the outer ring with your towel, your wash away, your topping. It can be a challenge, and often the towel can hop out or pop out halfway through the design. So we're not going to use that. We're going to use the bigger magnetic frame. And here it is. So I'm just going to pull that apart there. And so we're going to put this in. I'm going to have my tab, my release tab, facing me because I want the towel to go in that way. I'm going to take the bottom of this towel. Now, what would I use? I would use a wash away. Why would I use a wash away? Because quite honestly, I don't want any stabilizer left on the back of my towel. So that's what I would do. I'm actually going to now use my little magnets here, hold that in place. I just don't want the stabilizer slipping. So that's fine. I'm now going to take the towel. You would know where you want it positioned. If you wanted it perfectly centered, you would have it marked. So it goes without saying. Let's just say I wanted a design to stitch a nice big monogram across the top there. I would then take my topping. Now, I'm using topping, but if you are comfortable with your software, you might have a Brilliance Enthusiast and you might want to use knockdown stitch, that's fine also. But there is still an argument for using some topping whenever you're doing a towel. Now that is now positioned and that's hooped. Now, I'm not quite straight, I'll just redo it again, no problems. But that's all there is to hooping a towel. Stabilizer is perfect. Topping is perfect. If you feel like you have a little bit of fullness still in the towel, you can just pull a little bit of that fullness out, but don't do it too much because you don't want to stretch the towel. This was pretty good. It didn't really need anything other than me not being straight. But that's because I didn't have a marking on it. You would have it marked and you would be a little bit more careful. So that's the 3 sizes of magnetic hoops. All the prices are on the website. They are in stock now. They are only for the Brother PR Series 6 needle and 10 needle machines. Any model, it doesn't matter whether it's the first one, the PR 600, or the most recent one, the PR 1055 that has just been released. Remember, the machine will think they are a 300 by 200 hoop. You must trace the design. And if you're not sure how to do that, call us, we'll explain it to you. We'll try and do a video on that as well. And any other questions, just let us know. But they're a great product, and follow the instructions and the little warning label, and you will have a ball with them, and you'll be hooping things that you didn't realize you could ever hoop. So hope that explains it. Happy embroidering. We'll see you next time. Cheers.